Mediterranean diet headlines always sound like a travel brochure with lab results attached. Is the real claim that olive oil is magic, that pasta is forgiven, or that a whole pattern lowers cardiovascular risk?
The cleanest way to hear the claim is replace a lower quality Western pattern with one richer in vegetables, fruit, beans, lentils, whole grains, nuts, seeds, fish, and mostly unsaturated fats. Then watch several risk pathways move together. The headline is not drink olive oil. It is build meals that crowd out refined starches, processed meats, excess saturated fat, and low fiber calories. A practical plate is less exotic than people think. Half vegetables or fruit across the day, a fiber-rich starch like oats, barley, farro, or beans, a protein such as fish, yogurt, eggs, poultry or legumes, and fat from olive oil, nuts, or seeds. Red meat and sweets are occasional, not banned. The pattern is flexible, but the center of gravity is plant-heavy and minimally processed.
So when people say the Mediterranean diet is high-fat but heart-healthy, what is the body actually seeing? Is it just fewer saturated fats? Or do olive oil and nuts do something more specific?
Your liver is constantly packaging and clearing lipoproteins. When meals shift from butter, fatty processed meats, and refined snacks toward olive oil, nuts, seeds, fish, and fiber-rich plants, LDL-related signals often improve. Let's bring unsaturated fats plus fiber and phytochemicals. Olive oil brings mostly monounsaturated fat and polyphenol. Fish contributes long-chain omega-3s. None acts alone. The artery sees the combined diet over months and years.
The fat story makes sense. But if beans, vegetables, and whole grains are doing so much work, what is the gut route from fiber to heart or metabolic health?
Here is the first boundary. Mediterranean does not mean unlimited oil, nuts, cheese, wine, or restaurant portions. Those foods can be nutritious and still calorie-dense. If weight, triglycerides, fatty liver risk, or glucose control is part of the reason you're changing diet, portion size matters. Use labels to check serving size, saturated fat, sodium, added sugar, and calories, especially on packaged Mediterranean-style products. On inflammation, the evidence is promising but not mystical. A 2026 systematic review of randomized trials found Mediterranean-style interventions reduced some markers, including high-sensitivity CRP, IL-6, and IL-17, compared with controls, but not every marker changed. That matters because biomarkers are clues, not guaranteed outcomes. They support plausibility for cardiovascular and metabolic effects, while still leaving room for individual variation.
What should someone expect to actually notice or measure? Because heart healthy can mean a smaller LDL number, less inflammation, fewer events over years, or just a better-looking grocery cart.
Short term, labs are easier to see than destiny. In a small 2026 randomized trial of women with fibromyalgia, a vegan Mediterranean pattern lowered LDL cholesterol about 21 milligrams per deciliter more than a traditional Mediterranean pattern over 6 weeks, and triglycerides about 27 milligrams per deciliter more. That is interesting, but tiny. 22 participants, short duration, and a special population. It shows diet composition can move lipids quickly. It does not prove one version is best for everyone. For older adults, the story is less about one lab and more about resilience. A 2026 review and meta-analysis found that each 1-point increase in Mediterranean diet adherence was associated with lower frailty incidence, with an odds ratio around 0.95. That is not a dramatic single-person guarantee. It is a population signal. People who stay closer to the pattern tend to have slightly lower frailty risk, probably through better nutrient density, vascular health, muscle-supporting protein choices, and inflammation pathways.
A lot of viewers connect this diet with brain aging. Is that still cardiovascular spillover, or is there evidence that Mediterranean-style eating changes brain metabolism more directly?
This is where personalization stops being decoration. If someone has chronic kidney disease, heart failure, diabetes medications that can cause hypoglycemia, anticoagulants, food allergies, swallowing problems, pregnancy, or an upcoming procedure, the pattern may need clinical tailoring. A kidney health umbrella review suggests Mediterranean and DASH-style patterns are associated with lower CKD risk. But established CKD can require sodium, potassium, phosphorus, and protein limits that a generic cookbook will not handle safely.
If someone wants to start tomorrow, where should they spend attention first? Extra virgin olive oil, fish, beans, whole grains, or just reading labels better?
I would start with 3 swaps, not a personality transplant. First, make one daily meal bean or lentil forward. Second, replace butter or creamy dressings with olive oil-based cooking or vinaigrette most of the time. Third, choose a whole grain or starchy vegetable instead of refined bread, chips, or sweets at one eating occasion. Then add fish if you eat it, nuts if tolerated, and fruit or vegetables where snacks used to be. Track the thing you're trying to improve. For cardiovascular risk, that might be LDL cholesterol, triglycerides, blood pressure, waist trend, glucose markers, and medication needs with your clinician. For daily life, it might be satiety, bowel regularity, cooking confidence, and fewer ultra-processed defaults. Give food changes at least several weeks for labs and longer for weight or blood pressure patterns. If nothing changes, check adherence, portions, alcohol, sodium, and what the diet replaced.
What about the social image of the diet? Wine, seafood, expensive olive oil, long dinners. Should anyone feel they have to copy a coastal lifestyle to get the benefit?
Exactly. The physiology does not require a passport. It requires repeated exposure to the right food mix. Wine is not a health assignment, especially for pregnancy, liver disease, substance use risk, interacting medications, or anyone who does not drink. Seafood can be canned, frozen, or replaced with other protein choices when allergies, cost, or preferences require it. The pattern should reduce friction, not add shame. So the compressed answer is this. Mediterranean eating is credible because it changes many small exposures in the same direction. More fiber, more unsaturated fats, more minimally processed plants, often more fish and nuts, and fewer refined or saturated fat-heavy defaults. The evidence is strongest for risk patterns and long-term cardiometabolic health, mixed but interesting for inflammation, cognition, kidney risk, and frailty. Treat it as a practical meal architecture, then adapt it to your body, labs, medicines, culture, and budget.